Hi, boys and girls. I'm so glad you could join me today. Today is Tuesday, and in honor of Spirit Week, it's Pajama Day. So Mrs. Clock has her pajamas on, and I'm going to read you a story about a bear who also wears pajamas. And it's a silly story. It's about the bumble bear, the beginning, and he dresses up like a bee in this story by wearing his pajamas, and you'll find out what happens. It's a silly little story, but it's really fun to follow. So sit back and relax. I hope you're in your PJs as well. And let's read together Bumblebee, the Beginning. Bear loved honey. He loved honey more than any bear could imagine loving it, and he and his family lived in a cozy little cottage on Honey Hill Farm that had shelves for honey and jam. But the honey jars on the shelves were usually empty, because Bear ate honey all day long. Well, all day long he thought about getting more honey, and one day a bee flew by, and a thought flew into Bear's head. "Where bees are, honey is," he said. Well, he followed the bee to its hive, and then another idea came to Bear. To get closer to the hive, to get to the honey, I can dress like a bee. He'd wear his striped pajamas, he'd hum a bee's buzz, and he'd pretend to fly. And then when the bees think I'm just another big bee, I'll grab the honey, he thought, quickly changing his clothes. Well, he finished his costume and he spread his arms. "I am a bumblebee," he shouted, and off he dashed to the beehive. Well, as soon as he saw the hive, Bumble Bear became much too eager to put his paws on the honey. He forgot to hum or pretend to fly. He even forgot he was dressed like a bee. He wanted the honey so badly he made a beeline straight to the hive, crashing through the field, making more noise than a freight train. Bumblebee was so close to the hive he could imagine reaching inside for the honey. But then he stumbled. And stumbled is another word for fall. But then he stumbled. And he tripped and he tumbled. And you can see what's happening. All the bees are what? They're scattering. And he was really flying through the air now. He knocked over the hive as he landed, and combs of honey flew into the air, just out of reach. And something else flew toward Bumblebee, a swarm of angry bees. Bumblebee had truly bumbled. The bees aimed straight for the place where Bumblebee's homemade stinger used to be. He felt stungled. He jumped into the water to get away from the bees, and as a beginner, he hadn't been able to close the hive in the honey. When he landed in the pond, the cold water eased the hurt of his stings, but not his feelings. He'd lost his glasses, and he wore a hive on his head, a hive with no honey in it. All this trouble and still no honey, he thought. Bumblebee had been humbled. He grumbled as he trudged home in his underwear. Home to empty jars, home to hungry Gwendolyn Bear, his wife and 2 cubs, wear and tear. And his stomach rumbled. It rumbled so loudly it scared the birds, so loudly, in fact, that Wear and Tear and Gwendolyn Bear heard him coming. They watched his rumbling and grumbling from the cottage windows. That night, Bumble Bear lectured to Wear and Tear on the value of honey as he peered into the depths of an empty jar. Wear and Tear and Gwendolyn Bear were used to his lecture. They heard it all the time. And after his speech, Bumble Bear went to his study and planned far into the night, thinking up of new ways to get honey into his rumbling tummy. "Tomorrow I'll try again," he muffled. "What if—" Upstairs, Gwendolyn tucked the cubs into bed. Tears said, Daddy sure likes honey, but I like race cars. I like Pooh and honey too, Ware said sleepily. I like a real honey. And that's your father, said Gwendolyn Bear. He's a good bear, but not a very good bee. Good night. Ooh, boys and girls, all this talk of honey made Mrs. Clock really hungry. Ooh, that makes me think. Maybe I can think of something that I could make with honey. Maybe you can too. And if I make something, I might get to share and show you what I made. Have fun and be adventurous like our bee, like Bumble Bear, like I turned into a bee. Oh, it makes my heart full to read to you, boys and girls. I hope to see you soon. Love you. Bye.